Yeah, it's only going to get windier, and the tidal flooding and coastal issues are going to get a little bit worse, especially tonight and into tomorrow. This is just the front end of the system as it builds northwestwards and eventually into Wilmington, North Carolina. Here's a satellite presentation on it. It doesn't look as symmetrical, doesn't have a defined eye like we had yesterday. That's because it has weakened some. It's down to a 105-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane. But the thing that happened here is that we've traded the peak winds for a much larger wind field. In fact, tropical storm force winds come all the way out 170 miles from the center, so that makes it nearly a 400-mile diameter. And then hurricane force winds extend out about 70 miles, so that makes it almost a 150-mile diameter there. So a good chunk of the coastline up through North Carolina, even up to the Virginia border, probably going to be seeing tropical storm force winds at least a portion during this event as it moves on through. Here's how it looks on radar. I mean, we have some very well-defined banding here coming in closer to the coastline there. That's where you're going to find the really gusty winds and the defined eye wall there on the radar depiction, but you can't really see that on satellite imagery. It's a little bit clouded over. This box, a tornado watch that was verified earlier with a tornado warning. Not uncommon with the tropical system moving on land. It's already adding some spin to the atmosphere, so it's relatively easy to get a quick little spin-up tornado out there or a water spout moving on land. Some of the heavier bands now moving up and over Hatteras. You saw some of the reports there indicating the rain and the wind kicking up really nicely. And we have another band here off to the north. This is bringing some heavier downpours right through Back Bay, Knott's Island, and then progressing along the state line farther inland north of Elizabeth City. We do have plenty of warnings out there. Everything has been upgraded to a warning now that we're within 36 hours of seeing these conditions. And that's tropical storm force winds and hurricane force winds down to the south where you get a little bit closer to the center. Already those winds up to 37-mile-per-hour recent gusts in Cape Henry, 35 at Norfolk International, 30 down in Chesapeake, 37 in Elizabeth City, and 31 out in Manio. Those are only going to get stronger. In fact, as we go through the next 36 hours, check out the wind speeds that are going to be clocked in some of these areas listed. South in the Outer Banks in northeast North Carolina, seeing those winds up and over 50 to 60, even gusting as high as hurricane force, which is 74 miles per hour or greater. And this stays with us right on through Friday into Saturday morning. So a long duration wind event for us. Not a ton of rain considering how slow moving the system is, 2 to 4 inches through a good chunk of the area. Much farther to the south, you'll find those numbers really shooting up as you get closer to some of those heavier bands. So here's what to expect in your location. We'll start off in coastal Hampton Roads. The effects through the weekend: east winds at 30 to 40, gusts to 50, 2 to 3 inches locally higher, moderate impacts in terms of tidal flooding. As we move into inland Hampton Roads, same effects right through the weekend with those winds a little bit lighter, but gusts to 45 still. Moderate tidal flooding there. And we get into inland North Carolina, peaking Thursday night tonight in through Friday with those winds sustained at 35 to 45, gusts to 55. Tidal flooding is moderate there with 4 to 8 inches of rain. Then we get into the Outer Banks. This is the areas that'll see the brunt of it. Peaking tonight through Friday, gusts to 60, 3 to 6 inches of rainfall, moderate to major tidal flooding, and overall a major impact. Even more so down in southern Outer Banks, where we're seeing winds 60 to 75 with gusts possibly as high as 90, especially around Hatteras. Major to extreme tidal flooding there, and an overall impact looks to be major. So today, for the rest of the day, 85 degrees. We're cloudy and we're getting windier as the day progresses. We'll also see showers building in from the south to the north. And then tonight, 78. Wind really starting to howl out there with rain developing a little more widespread. That type of rain squall type scenario, not raining at all times, but when it does, it'll come down very heavily, tropical-like downpours. And with the slow-moving momentum of the storm, we'll see these kind of impacts through tomorrow and possibly even a Saturday and Sunday, depending on how quickly it moves inland.